When it's not always raining, there'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining, there'll be days like this. When everything falls into place at the flick of a switch. When my mama told me there'll be days like this. When you don't need to worry, there'll be days like this. When no one's in a hurry, there'll be days like this. When you don't get betrayed by that old Judas kiss. When my mama told me there'll be days like this. When you don't need an answer, there'll be days like this. When you don't need a chance, there'll be days like this. When all the parts of the puzzle will start to look like they fit. When my mama told me there'll be days like this. Na 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 na. When everyone is up front and they're not playing tricks. When you don't have no freeloaders out to get their kicks. When it's nobody's business the way you wanna live. Well, I have to remember there'll be days like this. When no one steps on my dreams, there'll be days like this. When everyone understands what I mean, there'll be days like this. When you ring out the changes of how everything is, well, I have to remember there'll be days like this. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. I have to remember there'll be days like this. Happy Sunday, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Lee. Welcome, everybody, to Hilltop Spiritual Center. Good morning. Good morning. A resounding good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It's like we have the crowds happening. Well, we're live and virtual, so that's all good, right? It's all good. So I welcome you all here. My name is Andrea. I'll do some prayer and some other things as it comes forth. We have Jim Jones as our speaker today. Thank you, Jim. And Lee. And our Rev Dr. Guy is speaking in another spiritual center today, so we bless it all. So I will start in prayer. I'll start in prayer to open up our hearts, not to say that they're not already open, but just to use the power of the spoken word, right? The power of the word to ignite the spirit that lives and breathes inside each and every one of us. The power of the spoken word to affirm what we already know. I am a divine spark of love and light. This is true because within all that lives, within all that is, the sun that shines, the flowers that grow, the voice that we speak, the words that we sing, the prayers that we say right here, right now. My body is a temple, and I honor the space I sit in right now. So as you are sitting in, breathe. Breathe in, my body is a temple, and I am the sacred one of the divine in everything I do and everything I say. For these are our teachings. They are teachings of truth. They come from ancient wisdom into the current time again and again and again. So we rest our body as we rest our back, and we shift our energy as we shift ourselves. So breathe in and breathe out, and bring your full awareness, as it is already, here and now in this moment. So I say thank you, Father, Mother, God, for this divine unfolding, for this place we call Hilltop Spiritual Center, for all that is here and all that was and all that will be becoming. It is who we are. So I thank you for this service, for each and everyone present here, near and far. We thank you for your divine presence, your love, and devotion to what it is that you love, that you give forth in your life. That is the calling for each and every one of us. Do what you love. Be what you love. Serve what you love. And give it freely, all that you do and all that you love. So I say yes to this. I call it forth into being, knowing it is so. And so it is.
So it is.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to go right into our reading and our theme. So the theme for October, all right, so take all this in. I'm going to sit down for this. The theme for October is travel alone, travel fast. Travel together, travel far. There you go. So based on that theme, the reading comes from a book of ancient Hebrew wisdom. All right. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So we will contemplate that as you contemplate what it is that brings you here, right here and now into this space and into your time at home for a 3-minute silent meditation. And so it is.
There's no combination of words I could put on the back of a postcard. No song that I could sing, but I could try for your heart. These are dreams. They're made out of real things, like a shoebox of photographs, a sepia tone love. And love is the answer, at least for most of the questions in my heart, like why are we here, where do we go, and how come it's so hard? It's not always easy, and sometimes life can be deceiving. I tell you one thing, it's always better when we're together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Oh, we look at them stars when we're together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Well, ain't this better when we're together? Now, full of these moments find their way into my dreams tonight. I know that they'll be gone when the morning light sings and brings new things. For tomorrow night you'll see that they'll be gone too. Too many things we've got to do. And if all of these dreams might find their way into my day-to-day scene, I'll be under the impression that we're somewhere in between. With only two, just me and you. Not too many things we've got to do, or places we've got to be. We sit beneath the mango tree. Yeah, it's so much better when we're together. Ooh, somewhere in between together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Ooh, it's always better when we're together. I believe in memories, they look so pretty when I sleep. Hey, now and when I wake up, you look so pretty, sleeping next to me. But there is not enough time. There is no song I could sing. There is no combination of words I could say, but I will still tell you one thing: we're better together. Better together. It's Jack Johnson. Let's hear it for our guest Reverend Jim Jones. Thanks, Jim.
Before Jim absolutely takes over right here, and we're excited for you to do that, we're just going to do our announcements beforehand, and that's kind of been what Rev Guy has been doing. So the first one that I remember off the very top of my head is his course that's coming up. Now, I know he's really excited to be teaching again, and he's very enthusiastic. So change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. A practical course in successful living. So it'll start on October 19th, and it's a 5-week accredited course. And we put a sign up out there so people can just begin to sign up for it. And it's also on the newsletter and the website. If you go to the home page, you scroll down, you'll see you can just click the link to sign up. So he would love, 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 love for all of us to engage in our community and take this class with him. And let's see, what else can I remember? There is a town hall meeting, but it's going to be in the first Sunday in November. So we're going to prepare for that and make that really a wonderful thing, and also having everyone show up, because, I don't know, sometimes there's voting with these things. Some of the board members know. And what else? Anyone think of anything else that's happening? Sherry and my class, Spiritual Economics, has moved to the beginning of the year, so we thought that would be a good start for that. And, oh, I do remember. See? I did. It came through. There it is. So, Ariel, Lee's beloved, is going to start teaching yoga. And so we're so excited to have more classes happening. So it's going to be on a Friday at 10:30. It's going to start, I think it's the last Friday. It may be the 21st of October. 10:30 to noon in Star Hall. Yes, indeed, all our yogis out there are going, yay, cool, we're going to have a yoga class together. She's like all levels, all good, just come. She's here so often that it'll be an extension of our spiritual teachings in her healing yoga class. So thank you for that psychic thing. Amazing. So there we go. Amazing. All right. And I think that's it for me. I will leave the stage and let Jim Jones carry on. Thank you, Jim.
Are we working with the microphone? Yep, the light's on. Testing, 1, 2, test. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And you want to go back to the first slide at this point. Okay, are we good? All right. Well, did you ever think that you were going to come to church and the topic would be, do we need morality? Certainly, when I was a Christian pastor, this would never have happened. In fact, one of the primary concerns I hear from my Christian friends when they find out that I am now a naturalist is, what about morality? They will claim that there is no objective basis for morality apart from God revealing what is moral. And of course, by God, they mean the Christian God. And you know what? They're absolutely correct, at least about the first part. There is no objective basis for morality. That being said, my question this morning is, do we need morality? Now, this is going to be an all too brief introduction to a large topic, so I plan to leave time at the end for questions. Right now, I need to start by clearing up something right at the beginning. The word morality is not the topic of good and bad, right and wrong. Sometimes that's the way we use it, and we need to make sure we understand there's a distinction. There's lots of ways that we can talk about right and wrong, such as virtue or law, for example, neither of which is morality. We know this because adherents of morality might judge an action or behavior that is legal to be immoral, for instance. There is a group that identifies as the moral majority that seeks to change laws they consider immoral. So just exploring right and wrong, we are not explicitly talking about morals. Morality is just one way of talking about right and wrong. So let me show you how we can talk about right and wrong and how we behave without bringing up morality. There are three main categories, the way I see it: laws, customs, and emotions, which I will refer to as biological predispositions. And Steve, we're on slide 4 now. I begin with emotions. Emotions, or as I said, biological predispositions. Humans come pre-wired with pro-social emotions that generate behaviors that work to connect us with others. The reason that evolution has selected for pro-social emotions is that humans have heads that are too big. Our evolutionary path found it easier for us than to restructure the female birth canal. So we are born before our brains and our heads are fully formed, which means that our offspring are born helpless and unable to care for themselves. Almost every other creature gives birth to their young that practically hit the ground running. Not so for us. And because of that, we need tools to help mothers and fathers protect, feed, and raise their children for many years before children can care for themselves. And even as adults, we are heavily dependent on strong social connections. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman has this to say around one of our most powerful pro-social emotions, pain. Our brains evolved to experience threats to our social connections in much the same way they experience physical pain. By activating the same neural circuitry that causes us to feel pain, our experiences of social pain helps ensure the survival of our children by helping to keep them close to their parents. This neural link between social and physical pain also ensures that staying socially connected will be a lifelong need like food and warmth. And again, he states, we all inherited an attachment system that lasts a lifetime, which means we never get past the pain of social rejection, just as we never get past the pain for hunger. We have an intense need for social connection throughout our entire lives. Along with pain, some of the key pro-social traits that we come pre-wired with are an obligation to practice reciprocity, a sense of fairness, love, anger, compassion, and empathy. With our close friends and relationships, and assuming we have a healthy, functioning brain, no one has to tell us how to be fair, how to be kind, to recognize mutual respect and obligations. Our pre-wired social or evolutionary emotions of love, compassion, and empathy kick in to guide our behavior. Our emotions of anger will get triggered if we feel that someone in the community has not been fair or reciprocated when they should. Our biological predispositions then wire us to have feelings of right and wrong behaviors. And then we have customs, and this can be interesting. You may have heard the story of a boy who's watching his mother cook for an extended family dinner, and he noticed his mother cutting off the ends of the roast before putting it in the pan to cook it. The boy asked his mother why she did that, and she said, "Well, that is how my mother taught me." Well, his grandmother happened to be there at the dinner, so the boy went and asked his grandmother why they cut the ends off of the roast before cooking it. The grandmother said, "I don't know why your mother does it. I had to because my pan was too small." So we often pick up customs of doing things, and we don't necessarily recognize or realize the reasons for them, but there's another key role that customs perform, and that is to create a shared sense of identity. I like to use the example of how we hold a fork when talking about this topic. It was instilled to me when I was a child that this is the only acceptable way to hold a fork, and evidently for her as well. But why does it matter which way you hold it? Isn't the point just to get the food in your mouth? How we hold a fork is just one of a myriad of things that we are taught as children, children within a particular community. Enculturation is how we become part of a culture, and it is our source of identity. We are the people who hold our fork like this. When we see someone else holding their fork this way, we know that they are one of us. But when we see someone doing things differently, it can create anxiety because we don't know what else they don't know. Our cultural customs are also where virtues are learned and religious ways of being are adopted. But we also have to interact with people that might not be part of our community or culture. This is where laws come into play. Laws set the standards for human behavior across any cultural differences within a particular community. Again, we know that biological predispositions, customs, and laws are not morality themselves because they can be said to be judged as to whether or not they conform to moral standards. I want you to notice then that I have presented, however briefly, a description of human behavior and how it is shaped without needing morality to describe it. So if morality is not biological predispositions or customs or laws, what is it? Before I can answer that, I need to say a word about how we find ourselves subject to constraints on our behavior. As for biological predispositions, we are simply born with them. However, when we mature, we discover that we don't have to be driven by our emotions, that there are mental tools that we can use to experience our emotions without simply reacting to them. Likewise, there are many customs that are trained into us when we were young, before we had any say, but as we get older, we sometimes choose to reevaluate those learned customs, and sometimes we pick up or adopt customs that we choose. Of these three categories, law is the only one that is forced on us when we reach the age of accountability. How are laws forced on us? In our democratic societies, ideally, laws can be justified as being for the common good or for a collectively chosen form of goal. Ideally, we would choose to willingly submit to laws out of our desire for the common good. But ultimately, whether laws are justified or not, the government holds the only legitimate use of violence, and with that, holds us accountable to the law. Stephen, we need the next slide. I bring up the issue of enforcement because there is a challenge of how we get others to conform to behavioral norms if you are not the government. And this is finally the realm of morality. Morality is a way of labeling behavior in order to coerce conformity to a particular set of behavioral norms that are held to be certainly correct. Let me break that down. First, morality is a special way of communicating, a tool to bring about change in behavior. To restate from before, morality is not the topic of right and wrong. There are many ways to address the question of right and wrong that have nothing to do with morality. We looked at the three main categories: biological predispositions, customs, and laws. Morality is, however, a special way of communicating to get others to conform to a particular set of moral norms. It is crucial to note that moral labeling is associated with a particular set of behavioral norms. As I stated at the beginning, there is no objective basis for morality. However, moral positions are held with great conviction and certainty that they are universally true and apply to everyone, whether they know it or not. This feeling of moral certainty and the universal validity is why a person acting from a conviction of morality feels compelled to make others conform. So where does this certainty in morality come from? Humans desire certainty, but we live in an uncertain world. It seems to me that there are two primary ways we go about trying to arrive at certainty: religion and reason. Religion dispenses certainty via divine revelation, a truth that humans are incapable of discovering themselves. This is why my Christian friends claim that there is no morality without God. To their mind, without God, anything is permissible, because there's no way to say what is right or wrong apart from God saying so. But this also comes with a catch. We can also say the exact opposite. With God, anything is permissible. Anything that is claimed to be commanded by a God, then, would be by definition good. And here we find a long list of atrocities that have been done in the name of one God or another, all the while the adherents are fully believing that they are acting in the right and with a clear conscience. Reason, however, is just as tangled up in as religion in trying to produce certainty. One of the biggest goals of the Enlightenment was to arrive at a basis for morality based on reason and apart from church authority. Immanuel Kant is one of the key figures of this endeavor and one of the founders of modern ethics. His goal was a morality based on reason that could be universally applied. He referred to it as the categorical imperative, which is stated as to act only according to the maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. So basically, whatever you do, it should be something that you would be okay with if everybody did it. Well, let's see how this worked out. He's going to give us an example here of what he had to say about the morality of a mother killing her illegitimate child. A child that comes into the world apart from marriage is born outside the law, for law is marriage, and therefore outside the protection of the law. It has, as it were, stolen into the Commonwealth like contraband merchandise, so that the Commonwealth can ignore its existence, since it rightly should not have come to exist in this way, and can therefore also ignore its annihilation. So I tried to imagine how long he must have labored over this explanation of morality before feeling that it was just right and ready to be published in his book. I am sure it must have made some kind of rational sense at the time, but sounds absolutely bonkers today. And this is the challenge for any kind of scientific morality or ethics. There simply is no objective basis for morality, and to claim a rational or scientific basis for morality is simply hiding the cultural or religious biases of the researcher. The prize that moral certainty is after, whether it's religious or scientific, is an objective justification for making everyone conform. That same certainty also embodies or emboldens radical behavior in the one that holds it. But that certainty or that objectivity just does not exist for morality. Moral convictions come with an unwarranted level of certainty and are uncompromising in distinctions between right and wrong. As our political scene has become more and more morally charged, we find ourselves in a public space where compromise is an evil. Rather than conformity, we need to work for harmony, weaving our differences together into a beautiful, multifaceted whole. Morality is a tool designed to make sweeping claims, to stir up public outcry. If there is no objective basis for morality, then this practice is potentially very dangerous. Morality lends itself to weaponization. In light of what I have covered, all too briefly, I am afraid, I would suggest that we would be better off leaving the language of morality behind. This is a position known as amorality. Amoral does not mean immoral. It simply means without morality. Now I'm guessing I might have generated some questions here, and I'm happy to see if I can answer any of those in our remaining time. Who's got a question for me? We'll start with you.
This is a fairly weighty subject matter, and you covered it beautifully in a very short time. Do you have a book? Because I would like to sit, read, and reread, and ponder. And just so you know, our virtual audience can't hear us.
Yes, I'll repeat the question. Yes, thank you for that. The question was, it's a weighty topic, and I agree, and is there books to follow up on this kind of a topic? One that I would recommend, it tends to come from a little bit more of a Taoist perspective, which I also am very attracted to, is a book called The Moral Fool. Very interesting book, covers a lot of the same material. Not exactly in the same way, but a lot of the same material. Lee, you had a question?
Yeah, so my question is, as we get together and try to create the change and be the change we want to be, or want to see, how, does that fit into what you're saying about morality and having this version of what, the way I see the world and what I'm trying to change? How do we put that into context and say, okay, keep doing that? I imagine you're not saying everyone who's trying to affect change, stop that. So how would you put that into context is what you're saying?
Yeah. So the question, if I can rephrase it briefly, hopefully, is if we aren't going to use moral language, does that mean that we are discouraging people from trying to act in the world or bring about change, or is there another way of talking about that? Is that a fair summary? Yeah. So not having morality part of the conversation does not mean that we are doing away with concepts of right and wrong or good and bad. It means we have to come up with ways to explain what we mean by that, right? That can be in some sense justified, especially if we're going to try and ask somebody else to get on board. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is that moral language is easy to use because it incites emotional reactions that basically kind of shut down the whole reasoning process, and people just get engaged without necessarily thinking about what's going on. And so by refusing to participate in that level of discourse, we have to resort to really having stronger arguments about why we think we should do something or the other, right? So we have all sorts of ways where this works out. We're all very comfortable with the fact that we need to drive on the right side of the road instead of the left, because we can understand the logic behind we want to get where we're going safely, right? So it makes sense that we're going to curtail our behavior in this regard so that we can have a greater common good or a common goal that we're trying to achieve. And essentially with anything that we talk about, we have to kind of break it down in that kind of way if we're going to say you need to do this. Liz.
So today's world is so divided, especially in this country, politically.
Yeah.
How can we use what you're speaking of to bring unity?
So, and this is one of the things, I'm sorry, let me restate again for YouTube. The question was, in the divided political landscape we live in, how might we utilize what I'm talking about to bring about greater unity? So I would say there's a big challenge that we have in some of our thinking, I've noticed, in America anyway, that we tend to think of harmony as this idea of conformity. I was on vacation recently and I was driving by this housing complex that was called Harmony Village, and every house in it looked exactly the same. And I get that this is kind of this way of thinking about things, but harmony is really about how do we take differences and weave them together into something that works beautifully, right? So we think about singing. It's voices at different levels and pitches, and I don't know the right terminology for that, Lee, but you weave together to create something greater than the individual parts. And with our political discourse, because we've entered into more of a moral landscape, and it's become a good versus evil, us versus them, there's no room for compromise. And it's based on this idea that we are certain that our way is the right way. So I would say that one of the things I really appreciate about Hilltop is that Guy will frequently bring up the fact that we need to be very suspicious of certainty, that we need to remain open to learn and curiosity. And so this is probably one of the core features of moral language, is it comes with this idea of certainty that it is right. So if we can stop ourselves when we feel that and say, I need to be a little bit more humble about my position and think about what the other side is saying, and are there ways that we can work together as opposed to simply just trying to butt heads. Yes?
Isn't morality what you believe to be the right thing in your heart to do?
Well, this is...
They have a different idea.
Right. And so this is where we need to really distinguish between things like emotions, which are designed to give us a sense of right and wrong behavior, but we don't want to necessarily call that morality, because morality is a little bit different kind of a concept. It's not saying I have this sense or this feeling that, what you did was wrong because you hurt this person's feeling by taking their toy or whatever it was, right? We can have those emotional reactions to behaviors that we feel are unjust, but that's not necessarily morality. Morality takes it the next step and says what you did was, and this is a little bit more stark terms, but you would say something like this is evil, right? It's just categorically wrong. And that's the area where we need to kind of be more cautious and say morality is a particular way of talking about it. It's not the only way to talk about it. Yes?
One of the things I notice is that when you talk about morality, you're talking about my idea about what other people should do. I've always thought morality was my idea what I need to do. In other words, I would be much more stricter on myself and yet not demand that of everyone else around me.
Sure. So the question is, isn't morality, or couldn't one of the ways we talk about morality be the way that we talk to ourselves about curtailing our own behavior, not necessarily something we're trying to force on someone else? Is that correct? So in that sense, what I would say is, I think we just need to work on the language that we're using, right? So we've been kind of sloppy with how we use the word morality. It gets used for a lot of things that make it hard to distinguish between, I want to adopt a new kind of behavior. Let's say, we use the language of virtue, for example, or of, trying to develop more positive habits or routines or customs. Those are all things we can apply to ourselves. I might want to be more disciplined or use self-control. I might want to develop a habit of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Those are all ways that we could talk about in terms of morality, but they don't need to. And if we leave the moral language out of it, then we avoid the idea of kind of the judgment of it being in more of an ultimate sense, right or wrong. And this can even be true if we're talking about religious customs. So I know I talked about certainty coming from a religious context, but it doesn't necessarily have to be negative, right? So religion can have positive traits about how we want to change and shape our behaviors. We just don't have to talk about it in moral terms or in absolutist or in certainty terms that we feel like not only does it apply to me, but I need to make sure other people do it too. That would be the distinction I see. Anybody else? Well, good. I think this is probably a good place to conclude. Thank you, everybody, for your time this morning.
Everybody who asked questions. That always makes it so personal and so juicy. So maybe there we go. But anyway, thank you all. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for asking questions, participating in the conversation, to allow it to go that much deeper and deeper and deeper, because the integration is really, how does this integrate into my life, into my way? How do I become? So that was interesting and helpful. Thank you. And so here's our time for conscious giving. And we give consciously because we know that the source is beyond the beyond. The source of our good is the good of all that there is. But through me, I give, and as I give, I receive, and as we give here, we support Hilltop in every way that you could possibly imagine. Near and far, all the contributions go to the good of spreading the word and the message and the opening for each and every one of us here and now and beyond. So thank you for all your gifts and everything that you give. Close, thank you. So we will close today with the benediction. May all that has come forth inspire us in ways known and unknown. May we feel that we are ready to embark on whatever it is next in our life as we put one foot in front of the other, as we walk in and through and around all that is good today. So may we feel inspired, may we feel lifted, may we know and breathe in the good that is all around us, always, everywhere. God, Goddess is always everywhere. So be it, and so it is.
Haven't done this one in a little bit here. It's a glorious day on the planet I love. Let me tell you what I'm thinking of. 'Cause I've been wondering why it was. But it's just life doing what it does. We keep trying to mess it up. They keep trying to bring us down. So I'm just gonna smile at everything around. 'Cause I've got earth beneath my feet and the sky above. And it's a glorious day on the planet I love. Don't tell me about someday, somehow. 'Cause all we need is right here, right now. I've got some rhythm and I got some rhyme. I've got my music and I got my mind. And we were sinking in circles, imprisoned in the past. I'm just gonna be, and I'm free at last. 'Cause I've got earth beneath my feet and the sky above. And it's a glorious day on the planet I love. 'Cause there's children playing somewhere. How's life on Jupiter? I don't care. Oh no. 'Cause we've got lovers just laying there, yeah. Well, I'm no hero, I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being afraid. 'Cause I've been wondering why it was. But it's just life doing what it does. And I've got earth beneath my feet and the sky above. We're gonna rise above that old push and shove. 'Cause I've got earth beneath my feet and the sky above, yeah. And it's a glorious day on the planet I love. Whoa, whoa, it's a glorious day now. Whoa, 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 it's a glorious day, yeah. Oh, it's a glorious day. It's such a glorious day on the planet I love. It's a glorious day on the planet I love. It's a glorious day on the planet we love. Happy Sunday, everyone. So much love to y'all. Thank you.